The storm that changed everything, the sky erupted without warning, turning what had been a pleasantly cool evening into a deluge that seemed determined to wash away everything in its path. Olivia Reed glanced through the front window of Petal and Stem, her modest flower shop in downtown Hartwell, and frowned at the sheets of rain pounding against the glass. "Just perfect," she muttered, checking her watch. It was already past 9, and she'd missed the last bus. The delivery van she usually drove was in the shop for repairs, leaving her stranded unless the rain miraculously stopped. Olivia had stayed late, arranging elaborate centerpieces for the Harrison wedding, a desperately needed commission that might finally put her shop in the black this month. Between rising rent and the new commercial development threatening the small businesses in this part of town, every dollar counted. She pulled her cardigan tighter and began shutting down for the night, hoping the storm would ease. It didn't. Instead, thunder cracked overhead, and the power flickered once, twice, then plunged the shop into darkness. "You've got to be kidding me," Olivia whispered, fumbling for her phone. The battery showed 12%, not enough to call a rideshare and track its arrival. She'd have to brave the storm and try to flag down a taxi, assuming any were still running. Locking up. She stepped under the small awning and peered out at the flooded street. Water rushed along the gutters, carrying scattered leaves and debris, not a single cab in sight. She was contemplating her limited options when headlights cut through the curtain of rain, and a sleek black car pulled to the curb directly in front of her shop. The passenger window lowered, revealing a man with intense dark eyes and a 5. A clock shadow that somehow looked deliberate rather than forgotten. "Need a ride?" he called over the downpour. Olivia hesitated. Her mother's warnings about strangers rang in her ears, but then again, so did the thunder. "I'm fine, thanks," she replied automatically. The man leaned forward, and she could see he wore a charcoal suit with a tie loosened the uniform of corporate success. "I promise I'm not an axe murderer," he said with a slight smile. "Just someone who knows what it's like to be caught in a storm without options." As if to punctuate his point, lightning flashed overhead, followed by a boom that shook the sidewalk beneath her feet. "Where are you headed?" she asked, still hesitant. "Wherever you need to go." There was something in his voice, not entitlement or condescension, but a genuine offer of help. A particularly strong gust of wind drove the rain under her awning, soaking her shoes. Decision made, Olivia dashed to the car and slipped into the passenger seat. "Thank you," she said, acutely aware of her rain-spattered appearance next to his polished presence. "I'm Olivia Darius," he replied, extending his hand. His grip was warm and firm. "Where to?" She gave him her address, an apartment in a decidedly unglamorous part of town. If he judged her for it, his expression didn't show it as they drove. The tension in Olivia's shoulders began to ease. Darius wasn't intrusive with questions, but listened attentively when she explained she owned the flower shop. "Flowers have stories," she found herself saying. "They mark beginnings, endings, apologies, celebrations. I get to be part of those moments." "That's beautiful," he said, and seemed to actually mean it. "Most people I know build digital products that become obsolete in months. Your work carries meaning." When they reached her apartment building, the rain had finally slowed to a drizzle. Darius insisted on walking her to the entrance, holding his jacket over her head like an umbrella. "Thank you again," Olivia said, surprised by her reluctance. To end their brief encounter, Darius smiled, revealing a dimple in his right cheek. "The pleasure was mine." Sometimes the best conversations happen when we least expect them. As his car disappeared around the corner, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. Something that felt strangely like the beginning of a story she hadn't planned to write. Blossoms in boardrooms 3 days after the storm. Olivia was arranging a display of fresh sunflowers when her assistant Bethany burst through the door of Petal and Stem, waving a business magazine as if it were on fire. "Liv, you won't believe this." Bethany slapped the magazine on the counter, nearly knocking over a vase. "This is him, right? The guy you told me gave you a ride during the storm?" Olivia glanced down and froze. There, On the glossy cover stood Darius, her rain-soaked rescuer, looking impossibly polished in a tailored suit. The headline read, "Darius Nakamura, How This Tech Visionary is Revolutionizing Medical Software at 32. That can't be... Olivia's fingers left damp impressions on the magazine as she flipped to the feature article. According to the profile, Darius Nakamura was the founder and CEO of HealthSync, a company valued at over $2 billion that created integrated systems for hospitals worldwide. "Oh, mystery man is Darius Nakamura," Bethany whispered reverently. "The Darius Nakamura who donated $20 million to children's hospitals last year, and he just... gave you a ride home." Olivia's mind raced back to their conversation. He'd been so normal, so unpretentious. He'd spoken about digital products becoming obsolete. But she'd assumed he was a mid-level developer, not the head of an entire tech empire. He never mentioned any of this, Olivia murmured, scanning the article. Not a word about his company or his success. The bell above the shop door chimed, interrupting her thoughts. Olivia looked up to find a delivery person carrying an elegant arrangement of orchids and blue delphiniums flowers she hadn't supplied. Delivery for Olivia Reed. Bewildered, she signed for the arrangement and found a small card nestled among. The Blooms thought a florist might appreciate receiving flowers for a change. "Coffee sometime, Darius?" His phone number was penned beneath. Bethany squealed. "He's interested in you." "Or just being nice," Olivia countered, though her heartbeat suggested otherwise. "Besides, we live in completely different worlds. Different ecosystems create the most interesting gardens," Bethany said, quoting one of Olivia's own frequent sayings back to her. That evening, after much deliberation, Olivia called him. To her surprise, Darius answered immediately. "I was hoping you'd call," he said, his voice warm and familiar. "Why didn't you tell me who you really were?" Olivia asked, skipping pleasantries. A pause. "'Cause for once, someone was talking to me. Not to my bank account or my company." It was refreshing. They agreed to meet for coffee the next afternoon. At a small cafe near her shop, Olivia spent far too long choosing her outfits, settling on a floral dress that felt true to herself, rather than attempting to look like she belonged in his world. The cafe was busy when she arrived, but Darius had secured a quiet corner table. He stood when he saw her, looking both powerful and somewhat vulnerable in casual clothes rather than his corporate armor. "I brought you something," he said after they'd ordered, sliding a small package across the table. Inside was a glass paperweight containing a perfectly preserved forget-me-not. "I read that Victorian florists use these to send messages," Darius explained. "This one means true and undying remembrance," Olivia finished, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. "You did research on flower language? Wanted to?" "Speak your language," he said simply. Their conversation flowed easily, jumping from childhood memories to favorite books to their respective passions. Darius spoke about HealthSync with genuine enthusiasm, explaining how their software helped coordinate patient care and reduce medical errors. "It's not just about profit," he said, leaning forward. "My mother died because of a preventable hospital miscommunication. I built HealthSync so other families wouldn't experience that." Olivia found herself sharing her own struggles, the rising costs threatening her shop, the corporate flower chains outpricing small businesses like hers. "I could help," Darius offered immediately. "No," Olivia said firmly. "I appreciate the thought, but I need to solve this my way. My shop is everything to me precisely because I built it myself." Instead of being offended, Darius smiled. "I respect that independence matters to you." As they parted, he hesitated, then asked if he could see her again. Olivia thought about the magazine, about his wealth and status, and the complications they would bring. But she also thought about his genuine interest in her work, the way he listened as if her words mattered. "Yes," she said finally. "I'd like that." Walking back to her shop, Olivia realized she was still holding the paperweight with its preserved forget-me-not, true and undying remembrance. A promise, or perhaps a warning that whatever was beginning between them would not be easily forgotten. Thorns in the garden, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Darius. Turn on Channel 7. Curious. She reached for the remote and switched on the small television she kept in the back room of her shop for slow afternoons. There he was, Darius Nakamura, being interviewed about HealthSync's latest innovation, system that could predict potential drug interactions before they harmed patients. He spoke with quiet authority, his passion evident in the intensity of his gaze. The interviewer mentioned his bachelor status, and Darius smiled diplomatically, without offering details. "Smart man," Bethany commented, appearing behind Olivia. "With a spray bottle, vultures would descend if he mentioned you." Over the past 3 weeks, Olivia and Darius had carefully cultivated something delicate and promising. Dinners at out-of-the-way restaurants, walks in the botanical gardens, late-night conversations that stretched until dawn. Each encounter revealed new layers of compatibility. Despite their different backgrounds, the bell chimed, and Olivia turned to greet a potential customer only to find Eleanor Whitman, editor of the city's most notorious gossip column, standing. In her shop, with a predatory smile, "Ms. Reed, I'm Eleanor Whitman from City Pulse. Care to comment on your relationship with Darius Nakamura?" Olivia's heart sank. "I'm afraid you've been misinformed. I have a shop to run, so if you're not here for flowers, ... Ellen's smile didn't falter. "Our sources say you've been seeing each other for weeks. Is it serious? How did you meet?" Readers, love a good rags to riches romance? "Please leave," Olivia said quietly, heat rising to her cheeks, after Eleanor departed. Olivia's phone erupted with notifications, friends sending links to an online article titled HealthSync CEO's Secret Florist Fling. The piece included a blurry photo of them leaving a restaurant together, with speculations about her designs on his fortune. When Darius called, his voice was tight with controlled anger. "I'm so sorry about this, but my PR team is demanding a statement. But I won't issue anything without your approval." "This is exactly what I was afraid of," Olivia said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "I'm not equipped for this kind of scrutiny. We can handle it together," Darius assured her. "This will blow over." But the next day brought worse news. The property management company that owned her building called to inform her that rent would increase by 40% next month, impossible sum for her struggling business. "It's just business," the manager said unapologetically. "The area is developing rapidly." What the manager didn't say, but Olivia suspected, was that her sudden notoriety had made her shop valuable in a different way, as a property that could be flipped to a higher-paying tenant, capitalizing on the publicity. Meanwhile, crosstown Darius was facing his own thorny situation in HealthSync's sleek boardroom. "This is a distraction we don't need right now," said Victor Reeves, Darius's business partner and head of operations. He tossed a tablet displaying the gossip article onto the conference table. "We're weeks away from the hospital chain presentation. The board is nervous about your focus." "My personal life has never affected my work before," Darius countered. "It won't start now." Victor leaned forward. "We've been friends since college, so I'll be blunt. This woman, she appears exactly when we're about to close the biggest deal in company history. The timing is suspicious." "That's ridiculous," Darius snapped. "Olivia has no interest in my money or position." "Everyone has an angle, Darius. You've built this company on your brilliant mind, not your heart." Victor's tone softened slightly. "Just be careful. You've worked too hard to let anything jeopardize HealthSync." The seed of doubt was planted, fertilized by years of experience with people who approached Darius for his connections and wealth rather than himself. Though he tried to dismiss Victor's concerns, they lingered like a shadow. That evening, Darius arrived at Olivia's apartment to find her surrounded by financial spreadsheets, her eyes red-rimmed from stress. "The rent increase will put me out of business," she admitted. "I don't have the reserves to absorb it." "Let me help," Darius said immediately. "A small investment? No." Olivia's response was swift and firm. "If I accept your money, it validates every gossip column implying I'm with you for financial gain. That's absurd. No one who knows you would think that." "But no one does know me in your world," Olivia said quietly. "They see a florist from the wrong side of town, clearly after your money, and now your business is being affected too." Darius reached for her hand, but Olivia withdrew it. "Maybe Victor's right," she whispered. Maybe the timing is just ... wrong. Victor spoke to you? Darius asked, his expression darkening. He called to introduce himself. He mentioned concerns about the company's reputation. Olivia's voice trembled slightly. He suggested it might be better for everyone if we took a step back. Darius's jaw tightened. He had no right to interfere. But what if he's right? Olivia's eyes met his, vulnerable and uncertain. What if we're just fooling ourselves that this could work? As night fell outside her window, the future they'd begun to imagine together suddenly seemed as fragile as the petals of the flowers surrounding them, beautiful but ultimately ephemeral, destined to wither under harsh conditions. Roots taking hold rain streaked down the windows of Olivia's shop, echoing the tears she'd been fighting back all morning. The everything must go sign hung crookedly in the window, drawing in bargain hunters rather than her usual clientele. After a week of sleepless nights and desperate calculations, she'd made the painful decision to liquidate her inventory and close petal and stem. This is highway robbery, Bethany muttered, watching a customer haggle over already discounted arrangements. There has to be another way. Olivia shook her head. I've called every bank in the city. Without collateral or a cosigner, no one will loan me enough to cover the new rent and relocating costs. She hadn't spoken to Darius in 3 days, not since their conversation about Victor's interference. Pride had kept her from reaching out, and perhaps she admitted to herself
right there that Victor was right, that their worlds were too different to merge.
The bell chimed as another customer entered, this one wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather portfolio, Ms. Reed. I'm Patricia Williams, representing Nightingale Properties. Olivia's heart sank further. Nightingale was a notorious corporate developer known for transforming small business districts into high-end shopping areas. We understand you're facing some difficulties, Patricia continued smoothly. Nightingale would like to offer you a buyout of your lease. The offer she named was substantially enough to clear Olivia's debts and provide a cushion while she figured out her next move. The catch? She had to vacate within 48 hours. I'll need time to consider, Olivia said, her voice steadier than she felt. Of course. But the offer expires tomorrow. Patricia handed her a business card and departed, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and corporate opportunism, alone after closing. Surrounded by half-empty shelves and withering blooms, Olivia finally allowed herself to cry. This shop represented 5 years of dawn-to-dusk work, of holidays missed and vacations deferred. It wasn't just a business. It was the physical manifestation of her dreams. Her phone rang Darius. After a moment's hesitation, she answered. Miss you, he said simply. I miss you too. The admission felt both vulnerable and freeing. Can we talk in person? An hour later, they sat in her apartment, the distance between them on the sofa feeling greater than mere inches. Victor had no right to contact you, Darius began. I've made that abundantly clear to him. But he wasn't entirely wrong, Olivia said quietly. Look at what's happened since we've been together. A business is collapsing, your company's questioning. Your judgment? That's not because of us, Darius interrupted, leaning forward. Your landlord is exploiting the publicity, and Victor is using it as leverage for his own agenda. His agenda? Darius ran a hand through his hair. He's been pushing. To take HealthSync public. I've resisted because I believe it would compromise our mission. Victor sees your situation as an opportunity to prove I'm making emotional decisions. Olivia absorbed this. So I'm a pawn in a corporate chess game. No, you're the woman I'm falling in love with who's being unfairly targeted. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. I've been doing some research. Your building's management company was recently acquired by a subsidiary of Nightingale Properties. They offered me a buyout today, Olivia admitted. Darius nodded. Grimly, they're systematically pushing out small businesses throughout the district. It's not personal to you. It's a corporate strategy that happened to coincide with our relationship becoming public. That doesn't change the fact that I can't afford to stay. What if you didn't have to? Darius pulled out his tablet and opened a property listing. This building, on Maple Street, it's owned for commercial use, on the first floor with living space above. The owner is retiring and wants to sell to someone who will preserve its character. Olivia studied the images of a charming brick building with large windows and a small courtyard. It's beautiful, but I could never afford it. You could with investors who believe in your vision. Darius set the tablet aside. Not me, although I would if you'd let me. I've spoken with 3 local business owners who've also been approached by Nightingale. They're forming a cooperative to resist corporate takeover of the district. A cooperative? Olivia felt a flicker of hope. Each business maintains independence but shares ownership of their buildings. They're looking for a florist to complete the vision for a revitalized Makers District. Olivia's mind raced with possibilities. That could actually work, but what about us? The publicity won't disappear. Darius took her hands. I've been thinking about that too. The problem isn't that we come from different worlds. It's that we've been reacting to everyone else's narratives instead of writing our own. The next morning, Olivia stood in front of pedal and stem, key in hand, watching the sunrise illuminate the shop's window for what might be the last time. Her phone buzzed with a text from Patricia Williams, pressing for an answer on the buyout. Before she could respond, a delivery truck pulled up. 2 workers began unloading dozens of potted seedlings, not cut flowers, but living plants with soil-covered roots and unopened buds. Delivery for Olivia Reed, the driver announced. Handing her a card, it read, "Some endings are just new beginnings in disguise. These need roots to grow, just like us." As Olivia looked at the seedling symbols of potential and patience, of growth that couldn't be rushed, she felt something shift within her. She'd spent days focused on what she stood to lose. It's not what could be cultivated with the right conditions and care. She texted Patricia, "I'm declining your offer." Then she called the cooperative contact Darius had provided. By midday, she'd signed preliminary paperwork to join the business cooperative and secure the Maple Street property. It wasn't a rescue by a wealthy prince. It was a partnership of equals, with shared goals and complementary strengths. When Darius arrived that afternoon, Olivia was transplanting the seedlings into larger pots. "His will need time," she said, gesturing to the plants, "but I think they'll be worth the wait." Darius smiled, understanding the deeper meaning. The best things usually are. In full bloom 6 months later, Olivia stood in the center of her new shop on Maple Street, surrounded by the organized chaos of opening day preparations. Sunlight streamed through the large front windows, illuminating the hand-painted sign that would soon hang above the entrance, Wild Roots Botanical Studio. The name represented her evolution, no longer just a flower shop, but a space where art and nature intersected. One half of the store featured her traditional floral arrangements. The other offered workshops, locally made botanical products, and a small garden cafe run in partnership with the bakery next door. 5 minutes until we open, called Bethany, who had graduated from assistant to full business partner. "Are you ready?" Olivia took a deep breath, savoring the mingled scents of fresh flowers, coffee, and possibility. More than ready. The journey to this moment had been neither straight nor smooth. After declining Nightingale's buyout, Olivia had faced retaliatory tactics, accidental water shutoffs at her old shop, mysterious cancellations of standing orders. But with each obstacle, the business cooperative had rallied. Sharing resources and support, Darius had been careful to remain visibly uninvolved in the business aspects of her transition. Though his moral support never wavered, they'd weathered the initial media storm by neither hiding nor performing for the cameras, simply living their truth until more interesting stories diverted public attention. The bell chimed as the first. Customers entered, not random shoppers, but members of the cooperative and neighborhood supporters who had watched the renovation progress over months. Among them was Victor Reeves, looking somewhat out of place in his tailored suit. "Impressive transformation," he said, approaching. Olivia with a measured smile. "Darius mentioned you were hosting the cooperative meeting here next week." Their relationship had thawed gradually after Victor witnessed firsthand how Olivia handled the Nightingale situation with determination and business acumen rather than leveraging her connection to Darius. "We're alternating locations each month," Olivia explained. "Building community is part of our mission." "A smart strategy," Victor acknowledged. "Speaking of strategy, HealthSync's board approved our expansion into rural healthcare access yesterday. Darius's pet project is officially moving forward." The news sent a wave of happiness through Olivia. This initiative bringing in medical technology. 2 underserved communities had been Darius's dream for years, repeatedly delayed by more profitable ventures. "He didn't tell me," she said, surprised. He wanted to share it in person. Victor's expression softened slightly. I misjudged you both. What you have, ... It's good for him. It's more balanced, more focused on what truly matters. Before Olivia could respond, her phone rang the hospital where her father had been undergoing experimental treatment for his heart condition. Miss Reed? Dr. Patel here? Your father's latest test shows significant improvement. The new protocol is working better than expected. Tears of relief sprung to her eyes. The treatment part of a clinical trial managed through HealthSync's patient matching software had been her father's last hope. Darius had helped navigate the complex application process, though he'd been careful not to pull strings or seek special treatment. After ending the call, Olivia excused herself and slipped upstairs to the apartment she now called home. She needed a moment to process the news about her father and center. Herself, before the day's festivities continued, she found Darius in their shared office space, surrounded by blueprints for HealthSync's rural clinic prototypes. He looked up as she entered, his smile shifting to concern when he saw her tears. What's wrong? He was immediately on his feet. Nothing's wrong, she assured him, crossing to embrace him. Dad's responding to the treatment, and Victor told me about the rural healthcare initiative being approved.
Ow.
Why didn't you say anything?
Ow.
Darius's arms tightened around her. I wanted to be certain before sharing the news. Both pieces of news, actually. I've been tracking your father's progress reports. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. Not just for that, but for everything these past months. For believing in me, in us, when everyone said it couldn't work. Speaking of believing in us, ... Darius drew back slightly, reaching into his pocket. This seems like the perfect moment for this. He opened his palm to reveal not a ring box, as Olivia had half expected, but a small brass key. What's this? She asked, taking it curiously. The key to our future, literally. His eyes held a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Remember that property in Vermont we saw online? It's the one with the greenhouse and the apple orchard? It's ours, if we want it. Olivia's breath caught. They discovered the property during a late-night browsing session, dreaming about someday creating a retreat where they could balance their work lives with something rooted in the earth. It had seemed like a distant fantasy. But your work is here, she said, though her heart was already racing with possibilities. HealthSync is establishing regional offices, including one in Burlington. I could work remotely most of the time. Commute when necessary. Darius's hands framed her face. The rural healthcare initiative will keep me traveling regularly anyway. And you've been talking about expanding into sustainable farming, growing your own flowers. You'd be willing to split your time? To compromise that much? It's not a compromise if it gives us both what we need, he said simply. You've shown me that success means nothing without balance, without roots and blossoms both. Olivia turned the key over in her palm, feeling its weight and potential. 6 months ago, she'd been fighting to save a dying business, convinced that a relationship with someone from Darius's world could never work. Now she stood in a thriving new venture, having found strength she didn't know she possessed, and a partnership that defied conventional expectations. When can we see it? She asked. Decision made. Darius's smile was answer enough. Later, as they rejoined the opening day celebrations downstairs, Olivia caught sight of the seedlings Darius had sent her months ago. Now, flourishing plants integrated throughout the shop's design. Like their relationship, they had required patience, care, and the courage to weather uncertain seasons. But some things, once rooted deeply enough, don't merely survive, they transform their environment, creating new life and beauty where they stand. As Olivia looked around at the community gathered in her new space, at the man who had become her partner in every sense, she recognized the truth. Sometimes the most unexpected storms lead to the most magnificent blooms.